Welcome back, everyone, to Vox Markets. My name is Paul Hill, and I'm delighted again to be able to speak to CEO Bram Goorden of IXICO, a leading AI-powered medical analytics imaging company that helps biopharma groups develop new treatments for neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Huntington's. So, welcome, Bram.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me as usual.
Yeah, well, big congrats on today's positive trading update and upgraded sales guidance for FY25. So maybe we can start there. I don't suppose you just quickly walk us through what's been sort of driving the growth and sort of the key highlights from today's RNS.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks. So, obviously, we reported out H1 already with a 26% growth versus 2024. So really what you see is a continuation of the first half. And so we did believe that it was good to put out that different guidance. So basically 6.3 million is our current guidance. What it means is a 5% uptick compared to the previous guidance. It's a 9% increase compared to 2024. Obviously, you'll see us pushing to actually get that to a double-digit growth. But I think this is a prudent guidance which we're putting out now. I think it's important to note that obviously we did that capital raise as well. So we are quite cash rich, but we've really put that cash to work as well, right? And so that's something that you will continue to see as well, those continued investments. And so we do believe that this is actually a very healthy financial state now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I must admit, sort of like a bit, as I say, tip my hat because you seem to be bucking the trend because the sort of the broader sector in terms of we've had Trump, impacting sort of the R&D research spend and also particularly out in the States, and then we've had sort of like difficulties with some of the big CROs. Well, you guys seem to be bucking the trend. You're doing really well. What sort of like the magic sauce, the secret sauce behind IXICO? How come you've been relatively doing much better than the competition?
Well, I think there's a few elements there, probably two major ones. One, which is, I guess, sort of more market related. We are, as you know, a specialty player in the neuroscience market, in the neurology market, and we do see a clear surge there. I would say also from a precision medicine perspective, it is sort of the next frontier now after oncology. And I think despite some of the other things that are happening in the world, we're not going to see that change. We've seen approvals of Alzheimer's drugs for the first time. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of optimism. And that also means there's a lot of investment from biotech and from pharma in new solutions. And so obviously that's our market. That's the market we play in. Secondly, I think from our perspective, we've had that strategy. We have that strategy still, innovate, lead, scale, which was about expanding in Alzheimer's, in Parkinson's, moving somewhat out of that rare disease, Huntington's disease, which is really our bread and butter. And so I think it is sort of the perfect time and the perfect place for us. But obviously it does require discipline and it does require to be at the right place, which is why you've also seen us increase some of our footprint and making sure that we're close to the decision makers.
Good. And as we head into now Q4, that sort of final quarter, what's sort of the outlook over the next sort of 12 months, and what can sort of investors expect in terms of sort of contracts and product development and expansion and partnerships?
I don't want to sound boring, but I think there is an element of more of the same. We've set the strategy 12 months ago. We are on a clear trajectory to go deeper into Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We've mentioned some of the tools that we're using and some of the areas we're investing in. You may remember that we spoke, for example, about the vascular biomarker, which we do believe is going to define a whole new area in Alzheimer's disease. We now know that this disease is much more complicated than just sort of tau and amyloid plaques, as you often hear. And there are other types of patients there to be identified. So that's what we are very much investing in. Same with Parkinson's disease. But I think what you will also see is us expanding into some of these other revenue streams. You may remember that in June, we announced that we were instrumental in helping Fujirebio with the approval of their blood-based biomarker test, which was the first FDA-approved blood-based biomarker test in Alzheimer's disease. And that for us represented a new vertical. And so that is something that we're going to continue to focus on. As you may remember, we have these gap partnerships. We are close to some of these data where we can really do that validation of other modalities. And so partnering with these other groups is something that we're going to continue to do also in this final quarter.
Brilliant. Well, very much looking forward over the next sort of 3 or 4 months, hearing more about how the business goes, and very best of luck with the new initiatives. So thanks very much, Bram.
Thank you, Paul. And I'll be glad to come back once we've finished the year.